We're going to talk about language. There's a issue going on right now on social media where specifically Moorish Americans are defining words by how they feel, as opposed to defining words based on the science of etymology. So for the past few years that I've been involved in Moorish science, a lot of the people that are now debating with me about the definition of words have been mentioning things like etymology and the true definition of words, especially when they define things like the word black. They say it means pale, and they'll go over the etymology of black and show how it means pale. Alaikum salam, akasiyu. And they'll use Noah Webster's English dictionary or American dictionary on the English language from 1828. And they'll emphasize the importance of etymology when it comes to that word black, or when you look up the word American in that same dictionary, it means the various copper-toned natives found in America by Europeans. But when it comes to the word or words like Islam or words like Muslim or Muslim, they tend to throw out the science of etymology. They tend to stop respecting the science and stop respecting principles of language in general. So I want to help remind ourselves and remind maybe the new listeners that for every language that I know of, there is a science called etymology. And the linguists of that particular language, whatever language it is, they use the history of the word, how the word was formed, how it's used, its context, and the true meaning behind its origin to define words. They don't define words based on how they feel about them or how they internally feel about the external universe. They don't use that to define words. There's a science to learning a language because, one, it helps build comprehension, but two, for someone who doesn't speak the language, there has to be a set of principles and rules that are followed so that way you can understand native speakers. So if the native speakers are saying, well, these words are defined by how we feel, then you can never actually learn the language because the language would be constantly changing. This is why etymology, which is a science, doesn't change, fade, or pass away. So as an example, I'm learning Arabic. There are principles and standards in the Arabic language that I have to learn in order to understand the language. That's just a fact. If I want to learn Spanish, formal Spanish, there are principles of the language that I have to learn to understand the language. I can't just go into learning Spanish and then define the words how I want them to be defined based on how I feel and based on how the inner reflection of the universe that I feel a word means. If a word means to eat in English, comer, I believe, then that's what it means. It doesn't mean, well, the inner meaning of what it feels like, how I believe it means. That's not what it means. And I then can't take the translation of any other language of a word and then say that's the meaning of the word. So if I take a word of Japanese origin, let's say arigato, right? Arigato gozaimasu. I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan for 2 years, right? I can't take that word, right, spell it in English, and then say this word means the great opening of conversations. That's not what it means. It means thank you very much. That would be the English equivalent to that word. Now, in its original language, it may mean a greater way of saying thank you. It may also translate into gratitude, but for the sake of conversation, we'll say it means thank you. I can't say, well, I lived in Japan. I lived in Okinawa, Japan for 2 years, so I understand that arigatou gozaimasu means the spiritual. That's what people are doing today. And it's a shame. And no respectable linguist or respectable scholar would ever agree to that. So what I have in front of me is Abdullah El-Tali Mosibey's book, Etymology and Vocabulary. And we're going to open it. He signed it. We're going to open it. To the introduction. Let me see. Etymology is derived from the Greek root etym, meaning history, origin, true or real, and log meaning study, science, word, theory. Etymology is an indispensable discipline used as a foundation for other fields of study. Webster's New International Dictionary of the English Language, 1921 edition, defines etymology as the origin or derivation of a word as shown by its analysis into elements, by pointing out the root or primitive upon which it is formed, or by referring to an earlier form in its parent language. Also, an account setting forth such origin or derivation, often with facts bearing upon the word's relationships, the formal history of a word. Semantics is the field of study that reveals how words gain connotative meanings and become, through European social engineering, the common understanding, ordinary meaning, plain meaning, and the established meaning. Linguists who are lexicographers place connotative meanings in dictionaries, and over a period of time, the etymological original meanings and applications of words are de-emphasized and eventually lose their true essence in the general public. Because the general populace is not taught the etymology of words, the people are conditioned through European social engineering, accept the connotative and distorted meanings as being the true, real, and original meanings. Denotation is derived from the Latin word denotere, meaning to mark completely. Denotation is the state of using an object or symbol to signify, indicate, or mark or designate a word. The objects or symbols used as markers for words are the referents. This is to say that to denote is to tie a word to its objects or symbol. The word chair denotes a piece of furniture having a seat, legs, back, and often arms. It must be made clear that etymology is not the study of words. This oversight could render a huge misconception into the study of etymology. It is important to emphasize that etymology is the study of the history, origin, and true meaning of words. Further, it is proper to note that there is a clear distinction between the study of the true meaning of words and the study of the meanings of words. Semantics is science that deals with the meaning of words. Let's examine the word nice as a way to comprehend the importance of distinguishing the difference between the study of the true meaning of the word and the study of words. The etymology of the word nice means not knowing, stupid, and ignorant. This is found in the etymological brackets in dictionaries. Latin, ni meaning not, plus sire meaning to know. The meanings that the general public found in the entry-level section of dictionaries, these meanings are found in the entry-level section of dictionaries. The entry-level section have a list of various definitions that are numbered. Entry-level meaning for nice: giving pleasure or satisfaction, pleasant or attractive. 2, of a person, good-natured, kind. 3, fastidiosus or fastidios, scrupulous. Etymology reveals how the connotative meaning of words become the general public accepted and established new meanings. Connotative meanings are placed in dictionaries, and over a period of time, the original meaning and applications of words are de-emphasized and eventually lose their true essence in the general public. Thus, since general populace is not taught the foundation of words, it is socialized into accepting connotative meanings as being the true, real, and original meanings. The students of etymology, in using the original meaning of words as their foundation, will be able to determine if a word has been given new meaning. The etymology of the word slave reveals that the new meaning interjected into the social fabric of society is far from its original and true meaning. The entry-level meanings for the word slave contradict its etymological meaning. The meaning displayed in the brackets, the original meaning of the word dollar, is completely different from that used by the general public. The true meaning for the word consider has an astronomical usage. So he's given examples of different of how words are used, such as dollar, consider, and what was the other word? Slave, right? So from Abdullah himself, his very own book, we see that when we study etymology, we have to define the words according to their history and parent language. That's number one. Number two, when we're studying the English language, it's good to know the basics of how all words are formed across multiple languages. And all languages that I know of, and I don't know of any, like, I'm not sure the right word for it, but like the clicking languages in Africa, I'm not sure how they're written. I'm not sure if there's even a script for them. But the languages that I know and have studied, I briefly studied German, I briefly studied Spanish, I'm studying Arabic, and I constantly study English. But from all these languages, all of the words, and this is also in one of Abdullah's books as well, all words are formed by oops, my thing fell. I don't think it's on the right way. One second. Here we go. All words are formed by roots and affixes. Right? So you have the root of a word, and when you add an affix, it's either a prefix or a suffix. Right? So this is how words are formed across every language that I've studied. Right? In studying linguistics, the word language means tongue. Right? And as you study linguistics, you'll see that there are two foundations of words: graphemes and phonemes. Right? Just as an aside, when we all first learned the English language, we had to learn something called grammar. This word grammar is derived from the Greek word gram, which is a prefix, which is derived from the word glyph, which is derived from the Proto-Indo-European word greb, which means to carve. This is in reference to how early languages or early scripts were often carved into stone or carved into clay, right? And that carving had to be exact and precise in order for the reader to fully comprehend what you're saying. This is where, in the English context, grammar is important, where it comes to sentence structure, punctuation, and spelling, and things like that. So that way the reader knows what you're saying. So when we look at the word grapheme, a grapheme is the smallest amount. Let me use the other side. Amount of letters to produce the sound in a word. That's a grapheme. A phenome is the smallest unit of sound in a word. Right? So, as an example, and this is again phonetics. I apologize for not mentioning that. Phonetics is the study of sound. Linguists, and so as you study more about linguistics, you see that there are essentially two schools of thought. One is that phonetics and script are essentially two separate sciences. And the other philosophy is that script is based on sound, with the idea that these graphemes essentially tell you which sound to make, and the sound is actually understood, not the script itself. So they're kind of saying that the sound came before the actual script. Right? So as you read any word, right, and this is kind of where like the word sound, where your English teacher used to tell you to sound it out. So based on the sound that you're making, you can kind of learn how to spell the word, right? And this idea of phenomes is related somewhat to syllables, except there's more emphasis on the actual sound, individual sounds. So phenomes will say phenome, 2 syllables, right? But if we break it down by its graphemes, I'm talking about the word itself, not the meaning of phenomes, right? We have phi, nome, s. So we can essentially say that this 2-syllable word, phenome or phenomes, has 3 graphemes in it, or including the e. 3 graphemes in it, right? These 3 graphemes, phe, make phi. These 3 graphemes, nome, make the sound nome. These 2 graphemes make the phenome s, phenomes. That's how all words are structured. So when you understand this also is related to the fact how most of our ancient languages did not have vowels, right? Because the vowels aren't essentially necessary. And I seen this, I'm going to do this little trend. I seen it on TikTok. This is how vowels aren't necessarily necessary. Right? The word empty. If you get rid of the E, you have empty. If you get rid of Y, which Y is considered a vowel in English and most other languages, you have empty. So it went from empty to empty to empty. This concept right here is where you get the idea of the logographic language known as hieroglyphics or the Medu Neter. Right? Because we're talking about phenomes, the smallest amount of graphemes necessary to make a sound. Empty is the same sound as empty. Right? And if you have my book or seen my book, The Moorish Lexicon, I talk about this, how the Medu Neter is the the Mudar language, which is the Moabite language, which they also say Phoenician, which is the parent language to Arabic, or to the Quranic Arabic. Also known as Classical Arabic, which started in the first millennium BCE, so that's around 1,000 years BCE. And in this language, and when you study like Egyptologists, you'll see that they used Arabic to study the Medu Neter. This is a known fact. This is an absolutely known fact. But the connection between this is when you talk about the family of languages, you see that English, what we're speaking today, or modern standard English, which originated around the 1400s, is part of something called the Indo-European family. Or English is an Indo-European language. You'll see that one of the parents of English is Latin. And you see the parent of Latin is the Moabite language. So through etymology, and when as you study the etymology of the English language, you'll see Indo-European, and then you'll often see Proto-Indo-European. This is often acronymed as PIE, meaning Proto-Indo-European. Proto meaning before, Indo meaning amongst, European obviously meaning the European languages. So before the family of European languages, there were root words. And those root words were taken from another language. Does everyone understand that? Cool. So as we're defining words, one of the things that Abdullah El Talib Mosley Bey said is that we have to look at the word's history and its parent language. So as we talk about these words, most Moors that are opposed to me explaining the etymology of these words, they don't use etymology. They don't reference any dictionaries. They just go off how they feel. They'll turn this word into an acronym, or they'll say this means the will of Allah, and this means to submit to the will of Allah. They're taking this English translation. It's not even a translation. English transliteration. Because in order for it to be a translation, it has to be the definition of the word. They're not defining the word. They're taking the word from its parent language and turning it into the English script, but they're not defining the word. That's the difference between transliteration, meaning changing of the letters, and translation, which would be to define what the word means. So in its parent language, there is no letter U, there is no letter O, there is no letter E, and there is no letter I in its parent language. In its parent language, both of these words are spelled exactly the same. So, the same way we did with empty, I'm going to show you the transliteration of this Arabic word, and then I'm going to write it in Arabic for you. So M, S, L, M. In its original language, it is spelled like this: Meme, Sin, Lam, Meme. That's its original language. This is the original script it was written in. For people who are English speakers and not Arabic speakers, or don't know the Arabic alphabet, to make this into something that you can read, that's this. Since you don't know this script and you know this one, the letter for letter equivalent transliteration is M, S, L, M. Meme, Sin, Lam, Meme. So that's the difference. You're just changing it from Arabic to English. The meaning does not, cannot, and will never change. The root word of this word in Arabic is salam. Sin, Lam, Meme. In both Arabic and Hebrew, right? This is where salam and shalom come from. SLM, salam, shalom, SLM. The vowels are just for English speakers. In Hebrew and Arabic, there are no vowels. This word, its definition means to submit. That's what it means, by definition. As we know, in all languages, every word has the root and a prefix or a suffix. That's what changes words, or they're called word forming elements. And it's often used to change nouns into verbs, and or vice versa. So in Arabic, when you attach the letter meme to the front of the word submit, it means one who submits. So salam changed to musalam. Musalam, there are no vowels. Musalam, M, S, L, M. Musalam, salam, salam, Muslim. That's its literal, letter for letter translation. Right? And for the people who want to know references as to how I've been able to, I don't know where the first book is. I think it's upstairs in my room. How this is my reference for the Arabic language, where it tells you when you attach meme to a word, it means one who. So from submit to one who submits. You can get this on Amazon. It's a 3-book series. The volume 1 is upstairs. Volume 3 is right here. Anyway, so when we look at the graphemes of the word in its original language, we see that 1, there are no vowels, and 2, there's only consonants that make up this sound, that make up this word. So to take the word from its original script, transliterate it by adding vowels, and then to define it in English has no respect to any science regarding the study of language or the study of words. But when you study its etymology, this is what you find. This is the science. This is the actual true meaning and definition according to etymology. Then you can cross-reference with other books. And you'll see where I did that on several of my videos, but I'll do it again. Right, so the foundation was set by a Moorish scholar, a Moorish etymologist, which I haven't met any Moors who dispute Abdullah el-Talib Mosley Bey when it comes to the science of etymology and linguistics. So let's go off the precedent he set using etymology. Let's look up Muslim. And you'll often find that other Moors don't use the dictionary definitions nor the etymological definitions of these words because they are simply lying to you. Muslim. Noun. Also Muslim, Muslim, Musliman, or Musulman. Why? Because there's no vowels in the original word. Right? So Muslim is also Muslim. It's also Muslim. It's an archaic form of Musulman. It is a believer in or adherent of Islam, because the root word of Islam is in the word itself. Arabic, Muslim, Muslim, Muslim. Usage, Muslim is the form predominantly preferred in journalism and popular usage. Muslim is preferred by scholars and by English-speaking adherents of Islam. Let's look up Islam. Islam. Noun, a religion based upon the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, believing in one God, Allah, and in paradise and hell, and having a body of law put forth in the Quran with a K and the Sunnah, the Muslim religion. Arabic, Islam, submission to God. So based on the science, the etymology of the word, we can see that the root word of Islam and the root word of Muslim is salam, which means to submit. So when you define a Muslim as a adherent of Islam, it means one who submits. That is the etymology of the word. That is the science behind the definition of the word. It's not my personal opinion on how I feel about it. This is the science of the Arabic language, not my personal opinion. This is the science of a language that is dated to at least 1000 BCE. Yet Moors are using a language that was altered in the 1400s AD, over 2,000 years after Arabic, taking a word out of its parent language and then defining it how they want based on how they feel. That is not respectable to any degree of science or intellect whatsoever. This Noble Drew Ali brought the Moorish science temple of America, not the Moorish how you feel about things of America. They will never show you any root word that shows their definition. They will never show you any graphemes or phonemes or any allographs or anything. They won't show you any science that proves their definition. They'll say things like, look within. That doesn't make sense. You can't look in yourself and then find the meaning of a word. You have to look up its history, its context, its parent language, and that's how words are formed and defined according to the etymologist Abdullah el-Talib Mosley Bey. And that's what he wrote in his book on etymology and vocabulary. I'm not going to read it again, but I'm going to show you the reference. So don't debate me. Text Abdullah, call Abdullah, get his book, and then write anything to the contrary. Write how etymology is wrong. Write how the science, history, and meaning of words are wrong, and they can be defined based on how you feel. Write a book on that. Root, suffix. Right, so you see the root word, zero's the root, STA plus one suffix, stable, is one meaning. Or one word formed by the elements of affixes. That's why they're called word-forming elements. So you have stable, stabilize, stabilization. You also have stabilized. Right? So when we study the word salam, you have multiple words. Islam, Muslim, Assalamu alaikum. You have all of these variants of the word based on affixes. For the most part, in Arabic, when you add vowels and certain consonants, it slightly changes the word. This is how salam, sin lam mim, which means to submit, changes from submission to peace by adding alif to it. As-salam or Islam. It's an A, not an I. The actual word in its original language is an alif, an A. It is not an I. There is no letter I in Arabic. For English speakers, you have something called a fatha, which is a symbol used to indicate the A sound, which does not exist in original Arabic. It doesn't exist. It was created for English speakers because native speakers already know. You have a kasra, which makes an E sound. And when the kasra is under the alif, or sometimes if there's a shadda above the letter and it's under the shadda, it makes the E sound. Otherwise, the letter ya is used to make the long E sound. So now we're talking about accents. You know, in German, there's a symbol called an umlaut. In Spanish, there's a symbol called a tilde, and they tell you which sounds to make in that language. This is a science. This is what linguists use to study other languages. This is what linguists use to study the English language. These are respectable sciences that Moors are supposed to be respecting when it comes to teaching other Moors. Not just, well, this word means what I feel it inner reflection of my innermost thoughts means. That is nonsensical. There is no foundation in that. Communities cannot be built off that. When we look at an example, the analogy of the Tower of Babel, how Taj Tariq Bey explains how the lords of London came in and divided the language by separating denotation from connotation and removing etymology from our learning, and then made it so that way you can define words according to however you mean. And then since we're not speaking the same language because you're not respecting the principles of language, we can't even understand each other. And since we can't even understand each other, we can't form a society, build anything, defend each other, trade, conduct any type of business because we're not understanding each other because one of us understands language and the other one doesn't. And this is a commonality across all languages. When I was in high school studying Spanish, you had formal Spanish and informal Spanish. You know what the difference is? Connotative and denotative. Formal and informal. Slang and not slang. The written language that the elites use, the learned men and women use, that's what used to separate rich people and poor people, who could read and who could write. So why would we throw that away and then subject ourselves to things like ebonics? Why are we throwing away sciences and then claiming to be more scientists? Learn these things for yourself. Don't rely on me to define words for you. Learn these principles of language for yourself. I took Spanish in high school. Our Spanish teacher told us there was a difference between tú and usted. Spanish speakers know that. When you study Arabic, you'll see there's many people on social media saying you need to learn conversational Arabic first. So that way you can even begin to understand the lexical Arabic or the classical Arabic or the Quranic Arabic. But that's up to you. Are you trying to understand the Quran for itself, or are you just trying to have conversations with people? Colloquial, meaningless conversations with people. You have formal things and informal things. When you learn the formalities, when you learn the sciences, you grow as an individual. Communities can grow and develop. This is how societies are built. Tashriq Bey says culture is in the what? Culture is in the language. The word language means tongue. So learn the tongue. Not just, well, I feel like. The ancient and Kemetic meaning of the cosmological meaning of the words. What are you basing that off of? Because now if we can't come to common understandings of basic things, we will never be able to unite when it comes to complex things. Because we're not even speaking the same language. This is science. That any person who studies language, any person from any culture, from any nationality is going to respect this, because it's going to help them understand the English language better, to have better conversations. And what's so amazing about this is that when you study this in English, it gives you a better understanding of other languages. This is a plea to my fellow Moorish American people to use your brain, not how you feel about a word. Take the time to admit, I don't know something. Once you take the time to say, I actually don't know, then maybe you'll have the courage to look it up and then know. How do you think I know what a phenome is? You think I learned that in high school? No, they didn't teach me what a grapheme and a phenome is. They didn't teach me what an allograph is. They never taught me that in Old English. In Old English, an S used to look like this. That's an allograph. Now it looks like this. So if I didn't know that, and I would have read Old English, I would have been confused. Then I would have had to rely on someone else to translate it for me, and they could just lie to me. But when you take your hand and place it in Allah's hand, you can find it for yourself. You can find the truth for yourself. Find the truth for yourself. Stop relying on people who make good TikTok videos. They make it all flashy and they make it look cool. They make it look spiritual. That means nothing. If you don't even understand the basic foundation of the language you speak, how could you possibly understand another language? How? When we read the Golden Age of the Moor, when Ivan van Sertima and every other scholar admits that the most spoken language, the language of trade, the language of science, the language of commerce was Arabic. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship that Moors brag about was originally written in Arabic. Spanish, the language that Prophet Noble Ali told Moors to learn, was originally written in the Arabic script. How could we possibly claim to be intelligent Moors when we can't even read what our forefathers wrote about themselves? Which means we're forced to rely on people who hate us to tell us what our ancestors wrote about themselves. We don't even have the intellectual capacity to read what our forefathers wrote and say, this is what they said. Why? Because we're not even respecting the basic principles of grammar, which is from our own forefathers. The basic principles of edit. When you look up, I shared a post earlier this week of some of the curriculum that the Muslims during the golden age of the Moor were teaching their people. They taught their people language, the sciences of language and etymology. That's what they were teaching them back then. Why do you think Moors had an empire where they understood multiple languages? Because they comprehended these principles. And then you start to see overlap between languages. Oh, that word comes from this word, from that word, and that word. Why are we not respecting this? We're making this a joke. This is not a joke. People get into thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to learn this at some university somewhere. Why do you think no other foreigners associate with us? Because we don't even respect language. Who's gonna speak to us? Foreigners come here, they don't know the English language. They go to some European university, they're taught etymology, how to syntax, semantics, how to actually form sentences, and we're talking about that person over there. They don't even know what we're talking about. And we wonder why nobody respects us. Oh, well, this word is this acronym from another language. Where the corresponding letters don't even align with the actual definition. The word self does not start with an S in Arabic. So Islam cannot mean I, self, law, and master. Not one time in any dictionary from this century to the last has Islam ever been defined like that. Ever. Noble Drew Ali never even wrote that. But we're taking how we feel because we're so degraded in this society. We've been treated like dog crap in this society. Our communities have been bombed. Our leaders have been murdered and imprisoned. That we don't have anything. So we're holding on to how we feel about things. The same thing when we try to tell our people, you're not black. We've been stripped of everything, our culture, our language, our religion. So when you tell them they're not black, they feel like you're taking the last thing that they have. So they're going to fight for it. But when you teach them the science behind this is what it means and this is how you were tricked, they begin to say, oh, I've been tricked. Then they can learn. That's what Noble Drew Ali said, learn to love instead of hate. Because once you learn to love, that opens you up to knowledge. People talk about vibrating on frequencies. When you vibrate on the love frequency, you can learn more and the truth comes to you. Because Allah helps you. Oh, you're sincere about learning this? Okay, here's the path before you. Put in the effort. And then those with perversity in their heart, those who want to argue, they only focus on allegories. Oh, it allegorically means you are the will of Allah. Everything in existence is the will of Allah because it would not exist without Allah's creation, point blank, period. So to say that is nonsense. The fact that the sun exists is because of the will of Allah. It only exists because of Allah's will, point blank, period. It does Allah's will, which is what? To illuminate. To provide heat. That's what it does. By it doing that, it is submitting to Allah's will because it has no other choice. The fact that we breathe is subject to the will of Allah. You cannot stop your own breathing even if you try. Go ahead, stop breathing right now. You can't. Because your body has to submit. It has no choice. This is why the Quran separates you from your body. Because you animate the body. But because of Allah's creation, it will do things on its own without you even needing to be involved. This is why Allah says, I created you in the wombs of your mother, hearing and knowing nothing, and gave you knowledge. Little thanks do you give. You don't control your own heartbeat. It is automatic. Who designed that? The creator of all things. And since you don't even study basic physiology, basic anatomy, basic biochemistry, you can't even respect that. So then you at this low vibrational frequency, then yourself claim to be God. But if you actually, if you understood even the how one neuron works, what the hypophyseal portal is, if you understood how any of that worked, you would see I did not design this myself. This is why Prophet Muhammad said, knowledge is incumbent upon everyone who submits to Allah. It's incumbent upon every Muslim. Why did I say that? Because the word Muslim means everyone who submits. This is why there was a golden age of Islam. Because we actually submitted. We recognize we know nothing. We know nothing about Allah's creation. Therefore, we have to seek knowledge about Allah's creation. And in that, hopefully we can understand our Creator better. And this is why we see commonalities within all of creation. This is why we say universe, one vibration. Because there's a commonality amongst all living things. And they call it the quantum universe, the quantum realm, quantum mechanics. Where did this come from? The creator of all things. This is why we say, Alhamdulillah, all praise due to Allah. All praise. We know Allah has all knowledge, is all knowing. Because of our study of basic things like our brain, basic things like a neuron, basic things like the four ventricles or the four parts of your heart. Well, left ventricle, right ventricle, left atrium, right atrium, I believe it's called. Even how that works. But to study that, you have to know what? Etymology. And what did Abdullah Bey say in his book? That etymology is the precursor to every single science. Why? Because we use the words to understand our surroundings, our universe. And those words are comprised of graphemes, which make phonemes, which is what we actually understand, the vibration of those graphemes, the sound of those graphemes. That's what we understand. How does that work? How do we even understand vibrations? That is a gift from Allah alone, point blank, period. There's no other explanation. We can understand, you have little follicles in your ear that vibrate and it picks it up and hits your eardrum and it sends a neural pathway to your brain and you understand it. How? That doesn't explain how. That explains the mechanics behind it, but how? And this is why every road leads to Allah. Every road leads to Abraham. Who is the God of Abraham? Every science leads you to the creator of all things. And when you study every science, you see there is one creator. There's not separate creators that created things separately. There is one. And this is why there's commonality in all things. This is why we have an understanding that carbon is the basic building block of all things. Because we see that it's in everything. Studying brings you closer to the creator. That's why we had a golden age. Where the sciences flourished. Where people respected knowledge. To the point where the Roman Catholics knew they could only come to us to learn. But they had to make sure that their commoners didn't get the same knowledge or they would not be ruled anymore. This is the height of our ancestors. What are we showing for ourselves? What standard are we setting for the next generation? The Quran tells us that those people are going to reap what they sowed.
Do you know where the extension cords are?
No idea. What are we building? What contributions are we adding? There is a gift in providing beneficial knowledge that will add to our good deeds even when we are in the grave. Noble Drew told us, let your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, so when you die, everything will be okay. Why? Because we are going to be judged by the creator of all things who said, I gave you a body. I gave you a mind. I gave you a spirit. I gave you the earth. What did you do with it? Oh, well, I disrespected it. Oh, well, I killed people. Oh, well, I just kept lying. Oh, well, I spread false information about what words mean to cause confusion. Oh, really? Did you care? No. Did you repent? No. Did you even try to put in any effort? No, I heard someone say it and I just parroted that information, didn't study it, didn't do any additional anything. I just said what I said because I wanted status amongst men. Also, you cared about the cares of the world. You didn't care that you were going to come to me, your creator, and I'm going to judge you. You didn't care about that. No, I didn't. So you think that person is equal to the person who says, I care. I'm going to try my best to tell the truth no matter what it is. Even if I was wrong in the past, I'm going to correct that. I'm going to give charity. I'm going to strive to be a good person. I'm going to strive to speak well to other people. I'm going to strive to give charity and not hold it against other people. You think those two people are equal? And the Quran gives us those examples. Little do we reflect. You think the one who is telling you the science of language is equal to the one who doesn't? You think the one who can see is equal to the one who cannot see? Where can a blind man lead you? And you're listening to these blind men. You're listening to these people who have books this thick, who've written books this thick, whose books have no substance, whose books don't teach you things to learn for yourself. I read them. This is what scholars do. They judge other people's works. That's what they do. Why? So that way there's a standard set in scholarship. That's why. For the benefit of all of mankind. That's why. Read their books. Pictures of rappers wearing fezzes. How does that help you learn anything? What does that teach your children? What does that teach them? Nothing. But if you teach them principles of science that is universal across all language, you know what that sets them up for? Learning multiple languages. You know what that sets them up for? Speaking to multiple people. You know what that sets them up for? Networking across multiple land masses. Speaking to different people with different languages. That's how empires are built. Why do you think, in order to even qualify to be the Sultan of Morocco, you had to know at least 5 languages? That was a qualification. You couldn't just walk up and say, hey, I'm running for Sultan. Do you know multiple languages? Well, no, but I spiritually, metaphysically am a Moor. Okay, get out of here. We're building empires. We're building roads from China, a road from China to Europe. That takes knowledge and science and being able to communicate with people. And you're talking about metaphysically, I'm a Moor. Get out of here. You know how to build stuff? You know how to read and write? You can measure? Okay, come over here. Let's build this empire. Standards were set. This is why the Europeans are winning and we're not. We just accept anything, all the bull crap. Oh yeah, come over here. Yeah. You got book? You can make up some shit? Yeah, come over here. You speak real good? Yeah, come over here. This is why we're lost. Learn the science. Learn the principles. Learn them. Don't listen to people that say, oh, I went to court and I had a pyramid on the table and I turned it and the judge was drooling. And then the next day the courthouse closed down because there was rats. But then that same person says, but then they moved the courthouse across the street. Oh, so they really just went into a new building. You didn't shut them down. They're still conducting their terrorism. You didn't do shit. But you listened to, that was deep. Oh, and you said a few Latin words and the judge was drooling. Wow. That is a real story. From an individual that Moors claim is their sultan. And you believe that? You go to their website and they're selling you brick dust and you believe them? You think those are credible scholars? Brick dust, Project House, red brick dust. They're selling you that. And saying they're going to say words over it and you're going to be connected with your ancestors. I thought that through your mitochondrial DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, that information was already passed down to you. So what do you need bricks for? What do you need Project Brick Dust for? They're lying to you. And then look at their scholarship and measure it with actual scholars, people that actually read and write. People that actually put effort into learning something. Compare it to that. Not who's got the best mixtape out. The Moorish woke mixtape where they're not even talking about anything. They're just using woke rhetoric. Oh, Islamism. Oh, conscious spiritual degreeness, cipher. What are you talking about? We have children that need to learn how to build and read and write. And you're talking about nonsense. How are you not upset? We need to protect the minds of our children, and that is only done by fortifying their mind, by strengthening their mind with science. I'm not going to tell my daughter you can define words based on how you feel. No, there's a science that you need to learn. Ask my wife, before she was even out of the womb, ask my wife, what kind of books did I get my daughter? And she'll tell you, science and math. That's what I have planned for her. I care about my people, so that's what I'm telling my people. In Rhode Island, the capital is Providence. The capital of Rhode Island is Providence. There's Brown University in Providence. You'll see a lot of Koreans there. They don't associate with no black people. Why? Because who's in the universities with them? Predominantly Europeans. So then they start to adopt their way of speaking and their way of thinking and their way of moving and acting and their culture. When we ruled the universities, when we controlled the sciences, everyone assimilated to us. It wasn't the other way around. That's why nobody respects us when they come here. Not even our brothers and sisters from Africa respect us when they come here. Because of how we are acting. Because of our principles that we don't live by. That's why they don't respect us. What's wrong with these people? Speak to any African who's had primary school in their home country, and they'll tell you when they come here, when they come to our high school, they already learned that in their middle school. No wonder why we're dumb. And then outside of that, when you try to teach our people the science and the principles of language, say, oh, that's the white man stuff. How is using your intellect exclusive to so-called white people when their greatest university, Oxford University, was styled, molded, and copied from our Moorish universities? Look it up. Jews came to study at our ancestors' feet, took the knowledge that our ancestors gave them willingly and for free for the betterment of all of humanity, and then built their own. Good for them. And then they maintain that. Good for them. Why can't we maintain the same things? I'll tell you why. Because in this world, there are those who do good and those who do bad. And there are those who do bad that are masquerading as those who do good. And they get a following. And they turn it into personality worship. And they start using the common words of the day. Oh, you fell off. Oh, study, study, study. They're not giving you any substance. They'll say things like, oh, but Phoenician came before Arabic, and they won't even define the word, that they won't even tell you the Phoenician alphabet or show you the word in Phoenician. They just dismiss an actual scholar with nonsense. So what that Phoenician came before Arabic? So what? The languages are created or related. And I'm using one of the related languages that I'm studying to define a word that you can't even define in its original language, let alone a language that came after it. So what is your point? They have no point. Their point is to divert you from the fact that they don't respect science. So that way you don't learn on your own, so you follow them. That's their goal. Look at their videos. Look at their first old videos. They're saying the same exact thing. No level or degree of increase in any type of intellect or information or knowledge whatsoever. They're saying the same exact thing. Watch my videos. You'll see how I've learned and grown and actually studied. Not just said from the beginning, study more. No. Here's what I'm reading. Here's what I found. Here, look at my books. Look at the things that I've actually written. You see growth and development. When you look at them, what do you see? You see followers being gained. Why are they gaining followers? Because they're parroting what they want to hear. Because that's what gets them the following. I've lost so many people following me on Instagram because they don't actually follow me in real life. So many people following me, blocking me, arguing against me just because I'm telling the truth. Good for me. Bye. Go away. If you're not going to respect science, go away. If you're not going to actually respect principles, go away. I don't want you to listen to anything I have to say. I don't want it. I'm not in it for you. I'm in this seeking reward from my God. And my God said, you teach people beneficial knowledge. My God said, all knowledge comes from him. So you can't accredit me with anything. My Lord opened up this path of learning, and I strove my best to actually read and learn boring ass books. Siphoning through boring sentence after boring sentence after boring sentence just to find something of substance. That takes actual work. Actual commitment. I used to read the Circle 7 Quran, this thin ass book, and get a headache. Get tired because I never read in my life. I mean, obviously I read in high school, but since high school I never read. So much so that reading that small book was tiresome to my mind. Now I can read for hours if I need to. Things that are complex, like the studying of another language, I can receive that information and then give myself time to boil it down and try my best to understand through repetition and not just study, guys, study, guys. No, this takes time and effort. I don't have time to grow my mind and then please man. I have one God, not man. I don't put an effort to make my videos look cool and flashy to get you to follow me. That's not what I'm in this for. My God is almighty and omnipotent, and my God will judge me. And I have a whole bunch of sins I need to erase through good deeds, and this is the only way to do it. What are you doing? I don't follow these people. I don't join their lives. You won't see no screenshots of Jamal, of Rise of the Moors joined so-and-so. You won't see that. I'm not in this to go to their page and debate them. Why? Because I don't have perversity in my heart. I don't have fitna in my heart. I don't have disunity in my heart. I don't have anger and hatred in my heart. They do. That's why they come to me, to my Instagram, to my page, and cause confusion and cause debates. That's why they still follow me. That's why you'll see screenshots of so-and-so joined official Rise of the Moors live. You will never see it the other way around. Why? Because what's in their heart, not mine. Read and study. That's what I'm telling you to do. Here's the books to read and study. Here's the benefit of science. The benefit of science. The benefit of actually studying. Not, let me get a book, only read 2 pages, find a quote, and then act like I know something now. No, put in effort. And if you claim to be a Moorish American, and you claim that Noble Drew Ali is your prophet, then your prophet said that the Holy Quran of Mecca, as revealed by Prophet Muhammad, is the revealed word of God Allah. That revealed word of God Allah was originally in the Arabic language. So don't take an English translation and say, oh, this is what it means, that some European wrote, to perverse God's word. Don't do that. Put in time and effort, that's going to take months, if not years, to learn the language, and you see it for yourself. Don't tell me, oh, well, Muslims said no. What did Allah say? That's actually respectable. That takes effort. That's what men do. Now I'm going to read this English translation that some English person who was an enemy to my ancestors said, and I'm going to say that that's true. That's what Moors are doing. The word Muhammad, hamd, means praise. When you add mim in front of it, it means one who praises. That's what it means. Some crusader who was murdering our ancestors said Muhammad is Baphomet, an idol god that is not real, with a goat head. When have you ever seen a human being like that? Never in your life. They're saying Muhammad means Baphomet, and Moorish Americans are parroting that as if it's true. You respect that? When Noble Drew Ali said we honor all true and divine prophets, including Prophet Muhammad, and you're going to say he's Baphomet, how is that honoring him and respecting him? But through scholarship, by learning the language, you see, oh, Muhammad means one who praises, not praiseworthy. It does not mean a follower of Muhammad. It means one who praises. And then, like this person said, they say Muhammad was a Catholic. What are you talking about? Any person who actually puts in any effort to study this man, he was an orphan. His parents died. Born and raised in the Arabian Peninsula. How was that Catholic? And then when you study the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire, you see neither of them seen any value in the Arabian Peninsula at all. They weren't even there. Like this brother said, Noble Drew Ali, if you read his oral statements, you'll see where he said, I remember when I was Prophet Muhammad and I ruled with the sword. And he cut the head of Rome off. And then he wrote letters to the Christian kings and said, was I right? And they said, yes, Muhammad, you were right. Just give us a place to stay, please. We're scared. Why would you believe your enemies? Why would you believe a crusader who killed your foremothers and forefathers? Why would you believe him about what religion is, what Islam is, what Muslim means, what Arabic is? Why would you believe any of them? The people that have claimed to kill Jesus, why would you believe them about what religion is? Respect science. That's my message for today. That's what this was about. Respect the science. If they cannot define a word, if they don't know what ask next time a Moor tells you anything about a word. Ask them, what's a grapheme? Ask them, what's a phenome? Ask them. And you know what they're going to say? Oh, you need to study. Because they don't know. Because they don't know. So they're going to tell you, oh, you need to study. That's their default answer. Because they don't know. Anytime a Moorish American or any other human being has asked me something and I don't know, you know what I say? I don't know. Because that's the respectable thing to do. That's what a man will do. Oh, I don't know that. Okay, let me take a note of that and then look that up so I can know. And then when you look at Prophet Muhammad, his hadiths, he says, and I'm paraphrasing, there's going to be a time where there is religious ignorance. And then people are just professing to be scholars. You didn't put in any effort to learn nothing, but you're a scholar somehow? You didn't put in any effort at all? Okay. And that's going to be the standard. And that is becoming the standard. Look at it. Look at Moors today. Noble Drew Ali said, in order to change your people, you must change their literature. How many books have they written? And then take their books and then compare it to people who are actually studying science and language and say, wait a minute, this has substance and that one doesn't. I don't need to see a picture of Tupac with his hand over his heart. That doesn't teach me nothing. Why is that person's book full of rappers with fezzes? Who cares? My ancestors wore fezzes. My prophet wore a fez. I seen that. I don't need to see other rappers. I don't need to see Moorish Americans with fezzes on. Teach me a science. That's why, no matter what, I respect Abdullah and Taj, because they were teaching Moors science. So that way the Moors can build themselves. You study the science to build yourself. Study the science, build yourself. Don't rely on them. They wrote the books for you to learn. So learn. You don't see them making fancy TikTok videos talking about with the little lightning flashes and the little flag and the pictures of all the drawings of Moors and we are in for a real roller coaster with this one. Islam family, Islamism, the more metaphysical, ancient and comedic sciences of this means that. What did you learn? Nothing. Look up graphene. Look up phenome. Look up allograph. Look up what a logographic language is. And you'll see that all of this is the same thing. A script is a logo. It's a logograph. It tells you what sound to make. That is a standard across every single written language because it's telling you which sound to make. So that way you can understand what the writer is writing. You can understand it. So that way you can understand what the speaker is speaking. So when you learn, as an example, when you learn Arabic, you can read the Arabic text and say, oh, our ancestors said X, Y, and Z about themselves. You can look at an Arabic map of the 1100s and see the island of Cape Verde on it. And say, wait a minute. The Portuguese said they found that in 1460. Yet on this 1100s Arabic map, there it is. That's the power of learning another language. Learning even the basic script of Arabic, you can learn so much. It's time to pray.